This video, we will continue to improve our time class. So you will see here actually is a new UML diagram. You will see this example actually from example 2, time class folder. So we still have 3 private data attribute. And here we will show the other way to assign these 3 data attribute with the default value. So you will see here, we will have the constructor. This constructor, we have 3 parameters: hours, minutes, and the second. Supposedly, if you have parameter list, you make this time constructor is not a default constructor because you have parameter. But later we will show you, even if you have parameter, we still can have default constructor. So then we will show you later. See why here we put the equal to 0. So then besides this one, the constructor will make the change with parameter. And also you will see the set time. We still have a set time to specify time, minute, and the second. But earlier, because our set time, we need to use the long AND operator to check all hours, minutes, and the second, these 3 variables, passing the correct value. Then we set the new time. But here we will do the new one is, besides we can have the set time, we also have 3 individual setter function for hours and the minute and for second. So then the next one we do is we also have the getter function for that. But now this getter function, we will add the new keyword const keyword. So in the implementation, we will show you why this const keyword here. And here, whenever you have a function, you add the const keyword. You make those functions become a getter function. The getter function means you cannot, in this function, to touch and modify any private data attribute. You only can read the information. So that's why we will see the example how we will do the const keyword for the function. And all those functions with the const keyword, we call they are getter function. So even earlier, our print universal, print standard is not really we say get, return any value. We're just using that for print. But because your purpose for the function is print, so that's why they kind of is getter function, because they are not intended to change any private data attribute in the class. So we need to add them as a const keyword as well. So that's why now after we have the new UML diagram, we see our header file will look like this. So we still call time.h file, but this one actually I'm in different folder. So that's why they can have the same name. So you can see here, don't forget from now on, all the header file need to have the include guard. So then we still have our class time, have the 3 private data. We have our constructor function, but you see here we call that default constructor. I will explain later why they are default constructor. So then you will see here we have 4 setter function. Then we have 5 getter function. All the getter function, they have the trailing const keyword in the function header. Okay, so that's our header file, updated header file. So before later we go over all the implementation for each setter and the getter. Let's talk about this one. Why this one we call that the default constructor? Actually, before when we say default constructor, that means your constructor function doesn't have any parameter list. But here we have not only 0, we have 1, 2, 3. We have 3 parameter list. Okay, so this one actually, even we have 3 parameter list, but did you remember before when we talk about function? We talk about function can have default argument for each parameter, right? So that's why here you will see I only have the data type. I don't have variable name, right? But I assign equal to 0. That means I can, without specify this variable, if I don't do that, they take the value 0. So on the other hand, the same thing. All the 3 parameters, they all have the default value 0. On the other hand, if now I try to create a time class for t, okay, so I can do this way. I have 3 values, but also this one also equivalent to this. Okay, they are actually the same. Why? Because if you didn't specify any value for those parameters, they just take the default value. So on the other hand, default constructor, we mean you don't have any parameter list, right? However, default constructor also can happen if you have your parameter list, but all the variable you need to specify the default value. So that's make us still have the default constructor. So that's the third option. We can specify default value for the private data, hour, minute, and second. Okay. So that's our new header file. So then we will see here, right? So your header file now, your default value you only need to specify in your class declaration. So here we will do the regular with the parameter constructor. So here, right, since you need to update the hours, minute, and the second, right? So that's why we call set time. So this set time, actually we have hour, minutes, and second. And each hours and minute and second, we just call the hour, minute, second setter function to update the data. So why we need to do that? Because earlier, if you remember, in the version 1, we only have one setter set time. So then if we have the exception through, I'm not sure is hour is wrong or minute is wrong or second is wrong. But now if we write 3 setter function, you can see each one, if they are not in the right range, for example hours, I will through the invalid argument, I tell the user, actually your hour is wrong. Or the minutes not between 0 to 60, we just tell them you need to do that. So then the same thing for your second. So that's the 3 setter function. So of course, continue, we will see our getter function. Remember earlier our getter function, they are all const keyword. So here I want to remind you, your const keyword not only in your header. Did you see here in our header we have the constant, the function header we have the const keyword. But now here in your function implementation, each one they also need to have the trailing const keyword. So get hour we return hour, get minute we return minute, get second we return second. So then the print universal and the print standard is the same as version 1. The difference is because now we add the const keyword to protect them, to prevent any parameter can be updated, can be modified from here. Okay, so after we have our new time header file, so actually we have a couple different ways to create a new time. You see here, I still have default constructor. I can only specify one value. But remember, if you only specify one value, right? Earlier we have hour, minute, and the time, 3 parameters. If you specify all 3, they will follow the order. But if you're missing any one, they will make the last one become the 0. So that means here I have 21 and 34. We were using the 21 for the first parameter, 34 for the second. So the rest of that will be 0. So that's the third one. So this one, since you only have one parameter, I will fill out for the first argument. So then the second and the third, they were using the default value. So that's why here, the default constructor, that means 0, 0, 0. This one means 2 a.m. This one means 21 hours. So that's 9 p.m. 34 minutes. So this one is 12 p.m. 25 minutes and 42 seconds. So that's why you have different way to create your object. Okay, so that's why here you will just print the information. So one thing is let's continue to talk about the try and catch block. So earlier, remember, we have our get time to call set time to call set hour, set minute, and set second. So then when you have this one, actually the first one is wrong, right? Because hours should be within 0 to 24. So when we do the set hours, the first one, they will throw the exception. So possibly where the statement will throw the exception, we put in the try block. If here you have the exception to throw, when we do the catch parameter here, they need to have the same data type exception we need to handle. So earlier, these three setter function we all throw the invalid argument. So then after we catch, we will display the information. So later you will see because the hours, actually all of them are wrong, but we only try to handle the first one because we only do the one catch. So that's why later you will see the result. They will show you the hour is wrong. Also, we see the sample output. Also, that's why even we have all the hours, minute, seconds wrong, but they return the hours error. So to further talk about the try and catch block, like we say, which statement possibly will throw the exception you put in the try block? If here through the exception, need to make sure when we catch, they need to do the same data type, same exception type. However, if when we do the try, right, if we don't have exception through, what happened? So in your try block, we just see if you have exception happen, I try to catch. But here, if this statement doesn't have any exception through, so then they will skip the catch block and go to the next one. So that's the try and catch. And this one is the second example we show you the time class. Do you have any question? If you have any question, write it down. So during our Zoom meeting, I will answer your question. Okay, earlier we talked about we have those const keyword, right? Okay, so those const keyword, how they will affect us. So that's why using this new time class, let's create a constant object. So this example we show you that's a constant object. How to create a constant object? Actually, just before your data type, you put the const keyword. So then we have a noon time. That's a const object. So what does const object mean? I know you guessed that, right? Because if you have const object, that means what? You cannot make any change on this object, right? So that's why here, if you create a constant object, noon time, if you try to change, you call the setter function. Honestly, if you try to run example 3, you will have this error. This program cannot run. So what you need to do is you just need to comment out this 2. Okay, so that's why here after we correct that, we see the exception on the example 3, the update one. Here I have 2 time. One is the constant time called noon. The other time is wake up time. Okay, I know you guys don't wake up so early now because we all work remotely. Okay, so you have regular time object. They can change the time. They can call the setter function, can call the getter function. But if you have a constant time object, like earlier we showed you, you cannot call any setter function. But you still can call the getter function. So that means when we have the const keyword to create the object, right? Those objects, they cannot invoke all the function, but constant object always can invoke all the const function. On the other hand, we say that's the constant getter function. All the constant object, they can invoke that.